Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Welcome, Foxborough, to another great edition of Foxborough Central. My name is Bob Hickey. I am your host, thanking you for taking a little bit of time to sit back, relax, learn about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough the gem of Norfolk County. I'm joined today by a couple of friends. Rich Letson, who is the coordinator of the local CERT program. Did I get the title wrong already?
Yes.
I'm starting off the program great. As fans of Foxborough Central know, I tend to do that. You are the
Community Emergency Response Team Leader.
Excellent. And of course, everybody knows Chief Roger Hatfield. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on your show.
Pleasure to have you again. So last time we spoke on this program, we were talking about one of the volunteer emergency response mechanisms that we in Foxborough have called the MRC, the
Medical Emergency Response Team.
Okay, so the Medical Emergency Response Team is one arm of the Citizens Corps here in Foxborough.
Exactly.
And there's another arm.
And that would be Rich and his team.
Rich, tell us about the CERT program, which stands for Community Emergency Response Team.
Correct.
Okay, I've gotten 1 out of 2 issues correct, so I'm batting 500, and if I do that, I'll go to the Hall of Fame, just like Ted Williams, right?
Correct.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the program goes.
CERT was actually born by President Bush after September 11th. They realized that there was not enough coverage for volunteers out there to help them do any type of large-scale emergencies or even small-scale emergencies. So CERT was born. Actually, it was born along with the Medical Reserve Corps, along with the Citizen Corps Council. They already have other issues. They already have other avenues to go, but they wanted more coverage.
And it's interesting to say, because you go back to 9/11 and you think about the brave men and women of the I was thinking the equivalent down there of the MBTA is the
Port Authority.
Yes, the Port Authority workers, and then of course the emergency response personnel, the police and the fire, and what they did. And I don't know if people really understood what was happening, but it was just a realization and eye-opening on many different fronts. One of them, as you mentioned, President Bush at the time, that there wasn't an infrastructure in place to be able to deal with large-scale emergencies from a community standpoint.
Now, when President Bush put the Citizens Corps into play, it was not really about terrorism as much as it was about natural disasters, the large, forest and land fires that we have in California, Colorado, Arizona, those type of things, earthquakes, any of those natural disasters that really cause for public safety to be stretched out to the mighty end, and where volunteers can assist in aspects like neighbors checking on neighbors, looking for searches in wildland areas that takes hundreds of thousands of people to check an area to find lost people.
Sure.
That was what the president was looking at the time, is that ability to get the volunteers organized, trained, and to get them to be able to assist the communities in public safety in taking care of their residents, their community, their state, and things like that.
And I remember there being several efforts to coordinate such an infrastructure before. I remember back in the day when I was in the JCs that there was an attempt made to create a unit, if you will, to do search and rescue in case there was a lost child or a lost patient to go out and search. So this sounds like a much more coordinated effort, and the infrastructure, I keep using the word infrastructure, but the coordination is there, and you are in charge from a government standpoint.
Yeah, I'm the emergency management director here in the town of Foxborough. So yes, absolutely. When I first got here, and I said this at the last show, we had some great volunteers, and they used to go under the name of FEMA, Foxborough Emergency Management Agency.
Okay.
And that was great. The one thing though is it didn't fit the model. And the model being Citizens Corps, where there was some federal and state funds available, along with, as Rich has been working with, a regional approach, just like the MRC does a regional approach. It's more structured, it's more organized. The infrastructure, as you've been saying, is absolutely correct. You have to have a good solid base for it to work. and that's what's going on right now.
And part of that base is having people know ahead of time what is needed and what is expected
And get them
in a
trained.
case of crisis. And so,
And get them trained so that they are an asset and not hurting themselves.
Right.
When you have somebody that's not trained and they're kind of just doing their own thing, we have now another victim. And that's one thing we want to make sure we don't have.
well, that's probably true in any organization. If you have a volunteer who doesn't know exactly what their role is, then it creates problems. If you're dealing in an emergency situation, it can be much more than just
Right.
problems.
And Rich is going to probably, I hope, talk a little bit about the training and the regional approach that they've been working on.
You know, I'm going to ask you about that, but first, we want people to get involved. And my understanding is that you have an introduction meeting coming up.
Yes, the Citizen Core Council, along with the CERT team and the MRC and the communications portion of it, we have an introduction night, which is going to be August 27th, 2013, at the McGinty Room at 8 Chestnut Street. It's going to be at 6:30 to 9 o'clock.
So from 6 to 9, and that's a Tuesday, correct?
That is a Tuesday evening.
Tuesday, August 27th, at the Public Safety Building in the McGinty Room. People can show up who are already involved. You have to be signed up. Have you already had to give a blood oath to participate?
No, we want as many people to show up as possible so we can educate them on what we're going to be doing for the town.
So if people have an interest in learning about it, maybe aren't sure if it's a time commitment that they can make, this would be a great opportunity to come out, get introduced, hence the introduction
Correct.
title of this meeting, and to find out if it's something that they can do.
Yeah, everybody has a role. And everybody has a special skill.
When you say everybody, who is your target audience?
Every citizen in the town of Foxborough
That wants to be a
that
volunteer.
wants to be a volunteer, and they all have
That's a good
special
target audience then.
That is.
Everybody has a special skill. There's no role or there's no role too small or no role too big.
Because it all goes towards
It all goes
the
to
end goal.
End goal of assisting the public safety departments.
So let's talk about the end goal. What is the end goal or the mission statement, if you will, of CERT here in Foxborough?
The mission statement is for us to assist the fire departments and the police departments and all public agencies in the town of Foxborough in emergency and non-emergency situations.
Okay. So you get the call and you're activated.
Correct.
Let me give you an example. If we'll go back, and we don't want to repeat it if we can help it, when we had the hurricane come through in August.
Hurricane Irene?
Yep, and we lost power for over a week. Some of the big things that we had a lot of volunteers doing, and at that time it was not educated, but we were kind of shooting off the hip. But neighbors checking on neighbors. We had the Boy Scouts going out, we had residents going out, checking on our seniors, checking on our neighbors to make sure everybody was doing well. Then let's go to the next level, 8 weeks later. We have then a power outage from a heavy snowstorm.
A little ice storm, yeah.
A little ice storm. And we end up having a shelter open. Again, not having a lot of time to get organized, needing volunteers to basically run and support our community in a shelter. That's where this is all going to come in play. Instead of waiting for it to happen again and trying to like pick up all the loose pieces of paper of how we did it last time, we're training them, we're organizing them, and we're giving them the tools that they need to do a good job for our residents, and also to make sure they understand where they fit into the system through communications, the ICS, NIMS, and things like that. That's what the training's all about.
To the ICS.
That basically the incident command system. That he's taken some classes. We've had quite a few people take classes.
Okay.
And but I don't want the people in the community to misunderstand what this orientation is. We had an orientation about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, when we were starting the Foxborough Citizens Corps. We had quite a few people show up for that. Then we had another orientation when we opened up the MRC aspect, the Medical Reserve Corps. And we had a lot of folks that had a medical kind of background, but also residents and volunteers that could fit any other voids that we needed to fill. This is the third one, where we deal with the Citizens Corps, the CERT part, and where Rich and his team, that they're just organizing, we still got a long way to go, can start to build their team.
You know, and I'm speaking with Chief Hatfield and Mr. Letson, who are with the Citizens Corps in various capacities. We're talking about CERT. We're talking about the overall emergency preparedness of Foxborough and the volunteer system in place to support us in case of emergency. And I'll go back to my time as selectman. There was an emergency response plan in place, and this sounds so much more involved, so much more detailed, so much more all-encompassing that it does seem as though it's an awful lot. So you've made great strides in the time you've been here, but you had mentioned earlier that you're a volunteer.
Correct.
And so you have a real job in the real world and raising a real family and doing all the things that the rest of us do, and yet you have time for this.
I make time for this.
And for a person in your position, is this a special skill set, or is it something that really is more of a give back that you're able to do? Because, I mean, what is your background? What made you wake up one morning and say, this is something that I can do?
I've been in EMT for 26 years, so this is my way to give back to the town of Foxborough for letting me live in the town of Foxborough.
Well, Foxborough is built upon the backs of its volunteers, and it's a great place to live. So glad you're giving back and enjoying your time here. But the question now is, so what is the organizational structure? So you put out the call and ding, ding, ding. We've got another hurricane coming through.
Yeah. It works real
Activates
simple.
Rich.
The big thing Rich didn't bring out is your friend and ours is Lauren.
Lauren Batar.
Is a
great community person.
Oh, huge.
Fantastic volunteer.
Absolutely. And she kind of recruited Rich along with a few others to finalize.
Lauren is able to do that.
Oh, yes, she is. And she, like the Mitchell family and others that she has just been able to organize a bunch of people that have the same desire as Rich does to give back to the community, to finally finalize our Citizens Core Council. That was the huge missing link that we needed to finish, because with that, now we are recognized to the fullest extent by the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency and FEMA from the federal side, so that we are now eligible for, to get some federal grants to assist us on equipment, training, and also where they've taken the next step up to be part of a regional approach, both on the Medical Reserve Corps and on CERT, will also give them even more strength. So, Lauren is the key right now to kind of getting everybody organized, getting them all in the same room, but now it's the Citizens Core Council that needs to pull together, make sure their bylaws are correct, make sure that their screening process is correct. And that's where I do the oversight and working with them, because it's just, when you look at Foxborough, we're a bedroom community of 17,000 people, and we have 30 firefighters, approximately 30 police officers. We don't have a lot of public safety in regards to numbers, and so when we get into a situation that needs of a disaster type scenario, we're going to be stretched out really thin. That's where they come into a huge play.
And and thank you for all that. And I suppose that there's so many different ways we could go with this. I want to go first with, and we touched upon this in an earlier program, but with these organizations being established and with bylaws, they're real organizations. It's a legitimate volunteer group, just as, say, the Knights of Columbus, just as the Lions, just as the JCs. And so with that, there's an election of officers.
Yes, there is.
And you're the vice chairman?
Vice Chair Lauren Batar is actually the chairman.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
Amazing. Lauren Batar, congratulations. And then the piece of it you had mentioned earlier, which I love hearing about, is that it's being done the right way, because government should be made of laws, not of men. And the structure is in keeping with what the federal government is mandating. And so by being in compliance, if you will.
Exactly.
We're eligible for, you said, equipment? And
yeah, there is some federal grants that the state manages that are out there for the CERT, for the Citizen Core Councils, for the MRCs. And again, you need to meet all the criteria, the requirements, and once you do, then you're eligible. And we're finally getting ourselves there.
Well, that's great.
It's taken us a long way, and I do apologize to the community, to the residents, for it taking so long. But you know what? It's not something that you just throw together and force people to do. People have to be educated. People have to know what they're getting themselves into, like Rich and Lauren have. And then once they buy in, the thing takes off like a freight train. And that's what's been going on the last few, since the last time we saw you.
Well, if it took 224 years to get here, I suppose we can wait another week or two.
There you go.
The question now is, so folks coming out to the introduction meeting on Tuesday, I'm going to get this right, August 27th, from 6 to 9 at the McGinty Room at the Public Safety Building. They're going to come and be introduced to everything and be told there are some roles we need.
Correct.
Okay.
Everybody,
So whet our appetite. I'm out at home and I'm watching this program. Hello, I'm at home with you and we're watching this. Rich, what can I do to help?
show up and tell us your skill sets, and let's go forward. Get you volunteering.
But all I can do is paperwork. I don't
That's
have
fine.
a lot of energy.
That's fine. We need people to do paperwork. We need people to go out there and help knock on doors. Maybe park their car and just screen off certain areas, like for down trees, down power lines. So that's what we want.
Okay, so there's many different roles.
There's
that can
many
be
different
filled.
roles for many different people.
The big parts right now, Bob, that we're trying to focus our energies on are the things that we have some experience in already. And that being shelters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, working with the Mitchell family, they had a lot of involvement, and with Mike John, and Pauline Clifford, and all the folks that we always see, giving them the resources.
Pauline Clifford with the health department. Mike Johns, who's our veterans agent. Paul and Chris Mitchell, who are great community leaders.
Yeah, they all have been there before.
In case anybody is face tagging this program, we'll get the titles out there correctly.
Is give them the assistance and support with other volunteers that are now all going to be trained to be able to work together in that manner.
Because individually, everybody has great intentions, and each one of those four people, and Lauren and Rich and everybody, have great ideas and really want to help.
Right.
But it has to be coordinated.
It has to be. And so some of the other aspects, like I brought up earlier, neighbors checking on neighbors. You can't just say, well, go check this neighborhood. As Rich just brought down, there might be some power lines down. We need to educate them on what they should be aware of, what they should be looking for so that they're keeping themselves safe. Mm-hmm. How to do the accountability part. You talk about paperwork. That's a lot of paperwork for tracking people. So accountability. We're talking about the force and lands. How do we do a search pattern through the force and lands if we're looking for a missing person? These type of situations that we've dealt with in the past are what we're going to focus our energies on. And then we'll expand from there wherever the need is.
Excellent, excellent. So, and there's so many things to talk about. I apologize for skipping around, but you had mentioned also the regional approach. And as we saw with her, when Irene came blowing through, and then with the subsequent October snowstorm that brought down the lines, it affected many communities. And I myself work in Quincy, and there was not an ice cube to be had between Milton and Foxborough. So it was rather a nerve-wracking time, if not a crucial time for somebody like me, but then for others who have infants, elderly, people who are on some sort of machine that require that electricity. It's more of a life and death situation, but not just in Foxborough. So you touched on the regional approach. Can you talk about how we're partnering or what the infrastructure is? Is everybody up with us? Are we too far ahead of everybody else? Are we too far behind everybody else? Where are we?
We're in the middle.
We're in the middle.
We're in the middle. We're partnering with Norton and Ray Cord over there, who's the coordinator over there.
Okay.
We're partnering again with Mansfield, Rentham, and Plainville to become a regional entity for the CERT program.
And of course, that creates economy of scale. You get some buying power, if you will, and you get
exactly.
Right. And basically, if it becomes we're all coordinated in the one agency, the CERT team. It doesn't matter who's in charge. It falls underneath the NIM system at that point, the National Incident Command Structure.
Thank you. Another acronym.
Federal government.
Federal government. And then once the NIM system is activated through that way, who's ever the lead person for that town or that agency is the person who is going to be the incident commander until someone like Chief Hatfield shows up or the person with higher power shows up. He would take, at that point, the National Incident Command Structure over, and everybody else would fall underneath him as deputies, section leaders, and a bunch of other agents.
So it's all about being organized.
Correct.
And with the work of the other communities going through the same structure,
Right.
And they're called the same thing. So a CCC here is going to be the same thing as a CCC in Norton,
Right.
as in Mansfield, as in Seekonk, as in any other community, as in Galena, Illinois, or any other community, because it's a
Exactly.
federal structure.
Correct.
Right? There's a white paper, and they've told you this is what we want to see.
Exactly.
And if you meet these different criteria, then you're eligible to be part of our umbrella, and that in turn makes you eligible for grants and other types of funding for your program that you're doing within their infrastructure.
Correct. Kind of like
I got it.
Right. Kind of like Norton. Norton has a generator, a lighting generator. Basically, that's given to them by FEMA. They got it through the grant system, but that's a regional thing. So if the town of Foxborough needs it, all Chief Hatfield has to do is call the other town, and they'll actually send it.
Okay.
Plainville has a communications vehicle. Same thing. If Chief Hatfield needs it, say at the stadium, he can call it up, and they can come right here. So there's all pieces all over. They've strategically placed pieces all over the area.
And the great thing, of course, for us is that we don't have to go out and buy our own for
Right.
every.
Correct.
We don't have to have a garage filled with things that will only be used once every 20 years.
Right.
But it's great to know that when you do need it,
It'll
it's
work.
available. And it'll work.
Well, I think that, Bob, the one thing that you hit on earlier in the show was about the emergency operational plan. We all have, every
I love
community.
plans.
Yeah. And it's about yay thick, just so you know. And so, to make it more a functional plan, you still go back to your organizational structure as a community. And again, it does start right up there with the emergency management director, and then gets into, the town officials, and it talks about, the law enforcement piece, the fire piece, the health department piece. It has all of those components, and it always will have a slot over there for the volunteers.
Okay.
And that's where Citizens Corps plays a huge factor.
It's an important role.
It is a very important role. And so it does fit the model of our emergency operational plan that's out there, and it's activated through myself. If I'm not here, it goes down the pecking order of the Board of Selectmen have the ability, the town manager has the ability to activate the plan.
And it not only is it an important role, but it's, I guess with the way it's set up, it's a necessary role, because without that community volunteerism component, then the emergency response plan is missing a key piece.
Right.
So it's very important that people come out and volunteer and know that they're needed on Tuesday, August 27th at the McGinty meeting room from 6 to 9.
Correct.
I'm good at this.
You're good.
I'm getting there. So Rich, why do you keep doing this?
I love it. I love doing this. Like I keep saying, I want to give back to the community, and I actually enjoy helping other people. I know it's just some people call it cliche, especially in the EMS world, but no, I actually enjoy helping other people.
Well, the volunteers everywhere ask, so why do you do this? And it's because I like it. Or it's something that we enjoy doing. And it has to be something that you enjoy doing, or else it would become not fun. And while an emergency is never fun, it is a great way to find something that you enjoy doing to give back.
Correct.
So this is a type of role for folks who maybe don't have a strong time commitment in 2 hours every week. That's not what you're looking for.
We're looking for a commitment from anybody with any skill set to come out and help us in emergency situations.
Okay.
Also, we're going to be doing a teen CERT too, specifically designed for teenagers. And that's going to be another portion of it. That's a little further down the road, but that's something else that we're going to be doing.
So the program grows.
Yeah, and the reason why is
Or
that,
it's maturing. if you
well,
will.
think about what the school district's been doing, and kudos to the superintendent and all of them, where they're encouraging volunteerism in the school program. And in fact, the kids get credits and points for doing that. Well, why don't we reach out there and start giving them an understanding of what it is to be in emergency management? A, we might trigger them in a career path.
Sure.
And B, we're bringing them into the next level of their adulthood and being involved in the community. And so we've talked about it on all aspects of the Citizen Corps Council, and we've gotten great buy-in. The one thing I want to make sure we mention, because I don't want them to feel out that they've been left out, if you go back in history, back to the civil defense days, what was the big volunteer group that was out there was our amateur radios. The communications component still lives strong throughout the United States.
Yeah.
And they also
Ham radio operators?
Yeah, and they still live strong here in Foxborough. And they also work with the CERT team on the communication component. So the amateur radios are still very strong in that process of volunteerism and the CERT.
Interesting.
And we have 2 people on our board that are actually certified ham radio operators. Yes.
So a lot of the old has been incorporated into the new approach because I suppose at a certain level, a response is a response. You still have to have shelter, communication, water, food, warmth.
Correct.
So with and I love touching upon the teenager volunteerism piece. What a great untapped resource because, and with the kids in the high school and even in the middle school, as they go through their education, part of education is understanding community and that sense of community and the need for volunteerism. And you see with the National Honor Society so much, for any of us who have sat on scholarship committees, there's a huge pool of good kids who do a lot of good work. And what a great way to funnel some of those folks and some of those hours into this program.
Right.
If
Sounds
you
like
find
a great volunteer opportunity for somebody to come in and become the leader of.
If you find any of these seniors that were in the shelter back a few years ago, ask them about the high school kids that were there. These high school kids, didn't have any training, didn't have any other desire than to help the community. They were entertaining. It was right during Halloween, so there was
you're right.
They did a little Halloween thing. So
really?
these kids that we have that are growing up in our community, there's already a pile of them that fit the bill perfectly as being part of that junior team. So I don't know when we'll get it off the ground. We got to get the rest of the program first, but you can see that in the future.
Well, we circle this all back to folks in the community have always seen the teenagers come out and the young people come out to volunteer with the McGinty Fun Day and many other things. And the McGinty Fun Day for Michael McGinty, who was murdered in 9/11, which we go back to President Bush and the origins of the CCC and CERT. And so we use those 6 degrees of separation to come all the way back to meeting at the McGinty room on Tuesday, August 27th from 6 to 9. Can't say it enough because it's important that you're out there. We only have 1 minute left. We have time flying, but always time for one last word. Rich.
I thank you for the opportunity to be on your show and to get as many volunteers to come out to join us.
Well, folks here in Foxborough, thank you for taking the time out to be on our show. Chief Hatfield, you always have something good to say.
I have to kudos what Rich just said, but I also want to reach out to the volunteers that we already have working in our community, Rich, Lauren, and all the rest. Want to thank them because, again, it is making our lives in this community a little easier when we deal with a crisis.
Great. And Foxborough, I really hope that you'll take a little bit of time, and for those of you who can, go out and learn more about the Citizens Corps, the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, and all the other good work that Chief Hatfield and Chief O'Leary and Rich and now Lauren Bitar as chairman of the volunteer committee are doing to create a coordinated emergency response for Foxborough and the region. Come on out on Tuesday, August 27th, 6 to 9 at the McGinty Meeting Room. On behalf of all the volunteers here at Foxborough Cable Access, Betty Towers, Deb Storrs, Gary Nash behind the glass, I'm Bob Hickey. Want to thank you for watching us today right here on this favorite Foxborough Cable Access channel. Until next time on Foxborough Central, have a great day.